Jonathan Schanzer is the Vice President of Research at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He is my guest, joining us from Washington. And let's talk, if we can, Jonathan, about what is going on today. We saw, of course, the attacks yesterday. This is just the latest. There were previous attacks on by Palestinian militants on Israeli civilians. What do you make of this resurgence in violence now?
Well, it's something that's been simmering beneath the surface really since late June and early July of this year, where there was a series of attacks carried out by Hamas, and then, of course, a killing of a young teen in the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Shuafat. The protests that erupted as a result of that murder have never really died down. And so we've seen a constant throughout the war this summer, and even protests after that. And so this is an extension of that violence. What's disconcerting to analysts right now is that this is something that is not being driven by Hamas. I don't think it's being driven by the Palestinian Authority. This is something that is really bubbling up from the surface, a grassroots effort by Jerusalem Arabs and some further north in the country.
Right, and I want to just explore that, if I can, with you, Jonathan, this idea that, and as you know, Israeli Arabs account for 25% of the population of Israel. This idea that some might just take it upon themselves, grassroots, to sort of engage in random attacks based on no pre-planning, no organized group, just doing what they can to strike out against Israel.
Well, that's right. And, that's one of the reasons why Israelis might begin to look at the Arab population as kind of a fifth column. This has been a debate that's been going on for quite some time, that most of the Arab population, not all, but most of the Arab population views Israel as perhaps not the country where they want to live. Ironically, most of them don't want to live in the Palestinian Authority. Polls show that time after time. They don't want to vote in the elections, and they certainly don't want to be pulled into a state that would be less functional than Israel. But nevertheless, we're seeing this violence right now, and it does represent a real threat to Israeli stability and security.
You look at Israel, of course, and this is a democratic country. It's a very open country, Western-oriented as well, and yet have managed to sort of figure out how to have that kind of society at the same time with a lot of security in the streets and in the cities. Is that going to change now? Is security going to be increased?
Well, I think that, it's hard to increase security in Israel where it's already very high, but I think they're going to have to look at new measures to ensure that softer targets in Jerusalem in particular can be guarded better. We may go back to the days of the Second Intifada from 2000 to 2005. There were armed guards at a lot of the clubs and restaurants. You may see more of them at synagogues, which is something that didn't happen in the past. And so I think we will see an uptick in security. But at the end of the day, the Israelis are going to have to find an organic way of reaching a modus vivendi with the Arab population in Jerusalem. This is key to Israeli security. This is, of course, Israel's capital, and this kind of violence is unsustainable for that state.
Jonathan Schanzer coming to us from Washington. Thank you for being on the program.
My pleasure.